Golf Central on YouTube is brought to you by the new Chrome Tour golf ball from Callaway.
Kira K. Dixon here, pleased to be alongside Paige McKenzie, Golf Week's Beth Ann Nichols, and LPGA Commissioner Mollie Marcoux Samaan is joining us. Mollie, we have so much to discuss. I know that you have a very busy day, so we appreciate you taking the time. You just had a session with some officials from the PGA of America and sat down with the press. You made some exciting announcements. What are you most excited about as you go into this week at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship?
Well, there's nothing better than major championship golf. I mean, and there's so many different storylines that you guys have been talking about all day, which has been awesome. I've loved sitting here and watching you guys. I'm excited about how big this is. You know, it feels big. It feels like it's a moment. It's a moment for women's sports. It's a moment for women's golf. The PGA of America and KPMG just constantly make this tournament better. When KPMG took over, I think we were playing for $2.25 million. And this year, you know, going to $10.4 million is gigantic. That takes our purses to over $125 million. But again, the purses matter, but the women aren't thinking about the money. They're thinking about, you know, winning, and they're super competitive, and major championship golf is what they play for. So I'm excited for all of that. I think you guys have heard the announcement today that the KPMG Champ Cast, which is amazing, coming out with more technology. That's something that's really important to us. So we're going to have shot level data that's going to go right into the KPMG Performance Insight dashboard. The players are going to be able to get data in real time, be able to analyze their play right after the round, which is the first time that's ever happened. That's really big for women's golf. I mean, I think it's big for the players. It's big for you guys from the media.
It's definitely great as an analyst.
It's great for you guys.
I can tell you it'll be great on the broadcast.
And it's great for the fans. I mean, I think we always talk about the outputs in women's sports, you know, what are the pay equity and sort of, you know, what kind of media exposure. That's all really important, but it's the inputs that also matter. This technology, sports tech, really makes a difference. It just gives another opportunity for fans to engage and to get to know our athletes and to see how good our athletes are. I mean, that's one of the big things that the KPMG Performance Insights has done, is to show the world, not just, you know, sort of anecdotally, but to actually show them with data how good and talented our women are. So I'm excited for all of it. I mean, this is one of the very best weeks in women's sports, or in sports and in golf for sure. So it was the first tournament that I went to as the commissioner in Atlanta. So it just has a really special place for me, and I know it does for all the players.
This is the second major championship to have ShotLink.
Yes.
I'm wondering, I know it's a really huge financial investment, but how far are we from seeing that week to week on the LPGA?
Yeah, it's very expensive. I mean, again, that's part of the inequities that happen in women's sports. You know, you don't have the resources, and then you just fall further behind. You know, so this is huge. We had ShotLink technology at the U.S. Women's Open for the last 2 years, which I think, I mean, as a fan watching it, it's amazing. You know, and you just have this data that you can just follow. This now is the first time that it's going to fall right into the KPMG Performance Insight dashboard for the players to get in real time. So that's a really big improvement. We're working really hard on having shot level data for next year. It's maybe not going to be quite as advanced and in real time as the technology that we're seeing this week and we saw at the U.S. Women's Open, but it's getting much closer. So we're going to be testing a new system coming out in the next couple weeks and throughout the rest of 2024 to be able to, during 2025, launch some type of new scoring system, which will give fans and players more advanced level data, which will help a lot.
Good news.
Yeah, good news.
It is great
Good
news.
news.
So much of this event, obviously it's about the championship in the golf, but again, the Women's Leadership Summit, that is tomorrow. Leadership very much on the top of my mind. When you think about your position as a leader of the LPGA Tour, what are some of your pillars that you're looking for over the next year or so that you're going to try to either strengthen or move forward within the LPGA?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked really hard on a strategic plan that we actually worked with KPMG on. You know, they have very successfully stepped up at every moment and asked us, how do we help you solve problems? Yeah. And so they've done it through the championship, they've done it through the Performance Insights, but we also hired them as our strategic advisor to sort of figure out how to move the LPGA forward. I think, so we have, first of all, we're really clear on our vision and our mission, like what we're trying to accomplish. We're very clear on what do we need to do to get there, and I think we have 5 pillars that we're working on, and all of them will lead us to be commercially stronger. I think that's the big thing, is we need to to be mission-driven, and we're a membership organization, but we have to be stronger commercially. So our pillars sort of lead us to a stronger commercial base, and they are really optimizing the tour schedule, which is really important both for the players, but also for the media, for the fans, and for our partners to optimize the schedule. I think we're really looking at that membership structure and the player services that we provide. So we provide that environment so they can be really great at what they do, and then really digging in on building the fan base. Building the fan base in person. I always feel, and I know we've talked about this before, is like when you turn on that television, there should look like there's a ton of people there. These are the best women in the world playing. And if it looks like there's nobody there, then you just turn the channel because you don't think it matters. So we've hired a marketing department, which we've never had before. And we have 5 or 6 people in that marketing department. When I started, we didn't have anyone that had a title marketing. We sort of left it to the tournaments to market each individual tournament, and I don't think that works. And then we weren't capturing the data of our fans either. So we didn't know who was coming to tournaments. We didn't know where they were from, what their preferences, what their demographics were. So we now have worked with SeatGeek, and we're capturing almost all of the data at almost all of our tournaments to know who our fans are. We can market to them, 1 week after the next, and we can know who's coming and then come up with a strategy. So I think in person is really important to me. Here, I think we're going to have a great fan base. Seattle loves women's sports. They do really well with the NWSL team and with the WNBA team. Their attendance levels in Seattle, I think they're 3rd and 4th, respectively, within their leagues, which means people love women's sports here, and they love sports in Seattle. So I'm expecting a big crowd. I think that matters. And then we're really working on the brand value. I think this isn't a charity. We want our partners to really see the value in the association with us. And I think we do that through sports tech. I think that's really critical. A digital transformation where you're going to see a new website from the LPGA coming this year, at the end of this year in the 4th quarter, and a new app that will come online next year. And all of that will just allow fans to engage with our product better, and we'll be able to have two-way communication with those fans. And I think those are all really important pillars. And then last, how do we take this unique organization that has girls golf, LPGA amateurs, LPGA teaching professionals, 2 tours plus our joint venture with the Ladies European Tour, and how do we make a really creative and interesting business model that allows us to grow? So again, we're mission driven, but we have to be better commercially, and we have to focus on all those pillars to reach our goals.
Mollie, beyond those pillars, it seems like anecdotally, women's sport overall is having a moment. Of course, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. How can women's golf really grab on to the momentum that women's sport seems to have right now and continue to build on that and raise the game for all the women out here?
I think a couple things have changed. First of all, people's mindset have finally shifted. People are like, oh, the product is actually really good. And when I can watch it and when I can see it, I'm engaged in it. It doesn't matter if it's male or female. I think that's what the world has kind of finally woken up to. I think those of us who've worked in women's sports for our whole careers, we've been saying that forever, is like, just put us on at the right time, market us properly, and the world will be engaged and the world will have great fandom around our athletes, and the commercial value will then grow. So I think what we need to do, and actually you guys need to do, and the media needs to do, is put us on more, put us on at the right times, talk about us more. There's no reason you should just be talking about the men. We should be talking about the women. These are amazing stories out here, amazing athletes. So I think we all just need to hit on all cylinders. We have to do the things that we need to do to obviously market the tour and build the brands of our players, which we're doing. But we also need people talking about it, and we need to be on at the right time, and we need to be marketed when it's going to be on. I think we're 26 hours this week. That's good. But I think the men were on 250 hours. We're still not there yet. And so we just have to keep pushing and keep fighting to have, because it's not a charity. We think people will love the product, will be engaged in the product the more they see it. So those are the things we're focused on. But I really do believe we're close to the tipping point, both in women's golf, but in women's sports, that we just have to kind of keep hitting the system and keep pushing to get to that tipping point. And once the tipping point happens, it's kind of, the game's on.
Go ahead, Beth.
How much responsibility do you think the players have to say yes to as many opportunities as they have from the media? And what's your message to them of how to have that balance of doing what they need to do inside the ropes, but then also doing what they need to do what you just said and elevating the tour?
Yeah, I think this is a membership organization. So ultimately, everything we do is to benefit the members. And so I think just making sure that all the players understand that and that we can't do it alone. So I do think it's, I do think it's the responsibility of the players, but they're world-class athletes and everyone has a different personality. So you kind of have to balance all of that. Some players are going to be much, much more comfortable in that spotlight, and some players aren't. And they've got to manage that. But I sent a message to the players yesterday about how important, reminding them how important the Pro-Am is, how important the media is. And they all know it, and they're really good about it. But it is a really hard sport, and they have to get in the right mindset in order for them to reach their peak potential, too. So it is a balance. But I think that what I try to constantly say is, this is your tour. I mean, I work for you. I serve at your pleasure to make sure that we provide those opportunities for you guys. And I think they're really good at it. But again, every personality is different. Every player has different needs. But it is really important. I think it takes all of us. It's not just me. It's not just you guys. It's them. It's kind of the whole world pushing on this.
And we had Danielle Kang on the show earlier today. We were asking her about mental health and the support that she's gotten from the LPGA behind the scenes. For you as a commissioner, mental health has been such a huge topic of conversation, a really critical thing to focus on. What is the behind-the-scenes support like that you are able to offer players in such an important moment in that discourse?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more important in life than mental health and physical health. I mean, really, I always tell that to my kids. That's really where it starts and ends, right? That's the first thing that you have to focus on. And everybody approaches life differently, but I think as a core, principle, that's what we should all focus on. From our perspective, we have a couple things. One is I think we have to provide the best environment for the players. We've really worked we talked about optimizing the schedule. How do we not send them all over the world? And it's really hard to do because you have different needs of partners, different geographic regions, we have to follow the sun. But we really have worked very hard to say, let's try to make their travel as easy as possible. I mean, we know that's a hard thing on the LPGA. Let's also try to give them strategic breaks. So when we don't have a tournament in 1 week, then they actually, I think, feel a sense of relief of I'm not missing out on something, but I'm getting the rest that I need. And I think it also then allows the sponsors to have great fields. We've had amazing fields all year. So I think optimizing the schedule, making sure that we've got the right, support for the players on site. So we've worked really hard on making sure we have private physio space, to make sure we have gym space at every week, to make sure they can bring a guest into player dining. These are all things that cost money, but I think it's our responsibility to provide the best environment for their mental and physical health. But then the other thing is we've added a sports psychologist or sports psychiatrist to our team, which we've never had before. Dr. Julia Amato, she's amazing. She comes out, I think she comes out 12 or 13 times a year, but she's also available for virtual sessions. And the LPGA pays for that and supports that because we want to make sure that the players who maybe aren't making the amount of money that they need to pay for their own team, that have that support because we think it's so important. So it's a balance of you got to create the right environment. You got to, I heard you talk to Stacey about the community. The more things that we can do to create a great, welcoming and inclusive environment out here, it's not easy. Playing golf is very hard. Being on this tour is hard. But how do we provide the environment for them to reach their peak potential? And then we do have to provide some more services for them.
A few moments ago, you mentioned the joint venture between the Ladies European Tour and the LPGA. It's been a while since that vote to potentially merge the tours was called off. What's the latest that you can tell us about where that stands?
Yeah, I think, when we got some questions, at the end of the year as we were about to take the vote, we said, okay, let's take a pause and make sure there's no schedule issues, and the timing is always really important when you do those things what part of the season it is. So we said, listen, we have so many different things going. Let's just take a breather and continue to focus on the joint venture. We're really, we work with them every day, and we are trying to help elevate women's golf around the world. And I think that's a critical part of our strategic plan is how do we continue to be the leader in global women's golf, not just golf in the United States. We're a global tour. I mean, we have, I think, athletes from 35 different countries playing on the LPGA and maybe 50 countries represented on the 3 tours. So it's a really critical part of our strategic plan moving forward. We have a great relationship with the LET. We support them at every turn, and we're trying to help elevate that tour too. So things are in a good spot. We're really just focusing on growing both tours right now. We just sort of took a breather from the merger conversation, but everything's still great with that partnership.
Well, Commissioner, we really appreciate you taking the time on what is a busy week. I know you're also celebrating your daughter's birthday this week, so plenty of things going on in your world, so we appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. This is really cool that you guys are here.